We can't catch the whole class anyway. Just a part of it. Okay, so now I'd like to say that I'm really glad that you guys are all here. Because we've got a mission for all of you people to do, okay? You've been carefully selected. You guys are the team that's going to, hi, evening. Hi, we do have a promo here. So come on in.
Thank you.
This is one of the knowledge enrollment specialists from upstairs.
Hi, my name is Müge, and I'm your military military education coordinator. That's what they call us now. It used to be field rep, and before that we were enrollment specialists, but now MAC. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the class with UMBC here. Thank you and welcome you. I'm going to go over the most important policy, withdrawal policy. So please, like I tell everybody, when you enroll for a class, you literally go in your account and find the class number which you enroll for that specific class. It's the same thing. If you think for whatever reason this class is not for you, you need to log into your account and literally take yourself out of the account. And there is times for for the tuition refund, which I will read now. So not coming to class does not make you not responsible. Okay? So the first 5 business days actually is called drop. It will be like you never enroll for the class. You decide to get yourself out of the class. That's Friday. Withdrawal initiated 6 through 9 days. You will lose automatically 25%. Okay, so initiated 10 through 17 is 50%, and 18 and after it's 0. So, and some of you using financial aid, any kind of might be affected. So I definitely suggest to stop by our office, check where you stand. If you would to withdraw from the class, if it's going to affect you for next time. So we would like to also let you guys know, or for those who would like to take Dante's class, other than Kadena, we have Foster and Hansen as well, and they are all offering CLEP and Dante's, except Kadena also offers Prism U, again, for those who are interested in Facebook. Like us on Facebook, please. UMBC Asia Okinawa, 3 words, because we do post everything there first, okay? That you'll be interested in. So, you guys have any question?
Did you already take one?
No.
No, I'm going to now. All right. So this class is here on 14. This is for you, sir. Okay. So again, next class thought it was so funny that I couldn't pronounce all the names, but bear with me, please, because all those names here are quite different. All right. So Ellen Anderson. And there is one middle name too. Don't you have that? Tauren.
Try that.
Sometimes I don't try. Okay. Tauren Ellen Anderson. This person is not here. Okay. So, unique round. Okay.
She'll be here eventually.
Okay. Christopher Guy Burtz.
Chris, you prefer Chris? Guy.
Okay. Andres Cordero. Okay. Elizabeth Laia Cooper.
Leah Cooper.
Laia Cooper. Okay, thank you.
That's my first name.
Is that pronounced it reason?
Yes, perfect.
Josh Mitchell Cotwright. Okay.
And Josh?
And is it Jair or Hair?
Jair.
Jair Arandesa.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Jair. We had a nice number.
Oh, yes.
Number, again, which is J's. Is it Hay or J?
Hang in there.
Number Jervis Francis. Okay, this Number is not Michelle Kimberly Gosman, okay. Robert Mitchell Landers, okay. Mitch, okay. Sean Elizabeth Lee, or Shawnee Elizabeth Lee, okay. Freddie, okay.
And you prefer to be called?
Freddie.
Freddie.
Kemar Morrison, okay.
And you prefer to be called?
Jose Luis Munoz,
Jose.
Jose. Try it. Is it you? Okay. I see. I did the H though. See, I didn't say Jose.
That's like a billion people in this world with Jose. A billion, literally. Jose, Joseph,
Jose.
different variants.
Christopher Allen Rodriguez.
And Chris Allen or what?
Chris is fine.
Chris it is?
Okay, that will be it. So 1, 2, 3, 4 missing.
Yes.
Okay.
Or Miss?
All right. You guys have any questions? All right. Enjoy the class.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay. So welcome aboard.
What's your name? Unique.
Name,
Anything?
Lee.
What's yours? Okay, good. So you're here.
I think, that's right.
Oh,
Advanced research,
here somewhere you need. Okay, so I'd like to sort of lay out the game plan. The game plan is that I don't know the answers. I teach math in here quite a bit at a time, which is cut and dried. I put the problems on the board, and I know the answer to it. If the students get it wrong, I can tell them what they did wrong. This is different. Ethics. You guys are going to find the answers. And you're going to tell me the answers. Because the baton has been passed now, the ball is in your court. What we have done is dirty things up so badly with all of our technology that the whole thing is a chaotic mess. And now we are calling on you guys to straighten it out. So it's going to be upon you to take care of all of these problems that we have created. So we need you in the next 8 weeks to find these solutions. Okay. So now you're going to do it with each other. I'm going to be a moderator, keep you from grasping the throats, cutting intestines out. But basically, you guys are going to hash it out, and you're going to find out what it is that we're supposed to be doing to get us out of these impasses that we've created for ourselves. We've got security cameras at every intersection. We've got data we don't know what to do with, and some people say we don't even have a right to have that data. And so that's a big unanswered question. Do we have a right to have that data? And it's going to be up to you and people like you to find those answers.
So are we also like kind of not, I guess philanthropy? No, that's not the word. The study of people. Because in certain countries, like in England, CCTV is accepted. That's like their way of life. Closed circuit television.
Mm-hmm.
There's a security camera literally on every
That's
corner.
right.
But they feel that that is what is necessary to keep them safe.
But now I'm going to fast forward a little bit to a topic we're going to talk about next week because that gets me all back in the head. Next week's topic is privacy. This week's topic is what is ethics all about anyway? So this is going to talk about. But next week we're going to talk about privacy. And it's really not a fair question for you guys to address questions about privacy because you've never had any. From the time that you were born, you have been without privacies that we took for granted. You could walk down the street and nobody would talk to you if they didn't know you without an introduction. You were in this cloud of privacy everywhere you went. And nobody asked you a direct question, and you were perfectly permitted to be the strong, silent type if you wanted to, and not answer or share your life the slightest bit with anybody. And those were the codes that we lived by. And if you crossed them, then you crossed the line that you shouldn't cross. And everybody enjoyed extreme amounts of privacy that you guys would call weird and isolationist now. And now you have lost your identity. It's visible to everyone. And in the class that we had a year and a half ago, people say, so what? You know, everybody knows everything. It's okay. I'm cool with that. And that's just what happened. People have adjusted. And you've gotten used to this new level of privacy, whereas it's intolerable to people that used to know more. And as Leah is pointing out, in Britain, they're even used to a lesser level of privacy than we enjoy here. And we would be shocked by it. And so as you get used to it, you're no longer shocked by it, it becomes every day. As that you adjust to technological change, that your first reaction is no, we can't do that, and then you adjust and accept.
Well, see, in England, they actually have more privacy than we do. Like, you can't take pictures in school, you can't photograph people just randomly.
Oh, it's more, not
So
less.
the CCTV technically is for people's safety. Only the law enforcement can view those tapes. It's not it's government employees, unless they're leaked, but for the most part, it's not a broadcasted thing. But like, if you see like a school, children walking down, it's very picturesque, you can't take pictures. They don't allow you, like, you know, when you're a kid and your parents would film your recital or something like that, they don't allow that.
Okay, now, is that cultural? Is it because the British people are conservative and they want to keep things that way? Or is it a matter of that's right and we're wrong?
That's what I was asking, if we were getting into,
I'm asking you.
well, I mean,
No, we're not getting into it. Oh,
it's your culture.
What we're getting into is that type of question, yes.
Because nudity is not a big deal in Europe, but here it's almost offensive. They have nude beaches and. You know, like, I mean, you see here in Japan, and it may be like a sun thing, but people dress very modestly. At the beach, you see a lot more women completely covered than you do in scantily. Like, I've never seen a woman in a jeans.
That's not for modesty, that's,
For sun.
yeah.
But like in America, like, you know, people wear skimpy bathing suits, no problem. But in Europe, people are naked and nobody cares. Nobody
There
bats
are
an
cultural
eyelash.
differences, and these cultural differences were not so much of a problem until we became a global world. Because when you went into another country, you crossed a boundary, and it was understood that you would in Rome behave as the Romans do, that you would adopt their cultural standard while you were in the country. But now with the intrusion of the internet into all of the countries, there is no longer this border that you cross. You're in the entire world at once, and all of these different cultures clash. And what's happening, does anyone say what it is that is happening because of this? What is it that we're getting into? Do you know what homogenization means? We're all getting homogenized, agreed? We're all losing our distinctive differences in countries and cultures with each other, and we're all moving into a commonality worldwide. And that you say, well, that's good because it reduces the differences. It enhances the border, does it not? Even in America, 100 years ago, I remember, we used to go from one city to another. And the personality of the city changed. If you went from Philadelphia to Dallas, you were in a different world. People behaved differently. And now with the jet planes, jetliners, the way they are now, in one day you're in one city, evening you're in another city, and there are differences of city personalities. It's just not really what it once was. So it's because of technology. Now, the whole point of view that we're going to take in this entire course is that technology is a two-edged sword. Now, there's a book out on this topic. It's called A Gift of Fire. And we would use it in this course. It's the one I used a year and a half ago. If you're willing to pay $276 for the book. Well, that takes care of that. Now, that's
Is it
the
like
reason-
a textbook or it's just like a book?
It's a textbook. Now, what Maryland has done, you and you see, is it's undertaken this huge experiment of we're going to have freebies, free textbooks. And for whatever reason it was undertaken, I've been experimenting with it for about a year, and my conclusion is that you get what you pay for.
Yeah, but
Some
for
of these
copyright
freebies are
rules-
well worth the price. And I really miss those good textbooks that laid out things so well and so clearly. And now we're really scrambling to be able to reproduce them, but we're going to continue with this experiment with no textbooks, or at least no textbooks at cost. So you have a textbook that comes with this course. It's on your website, and I downloaded it and started to look at it. It looks a little bit too convoluted, a little bit too pedagogical, and it's not really, I think, strikes the tone that we want in here. So I'm going to search around and try to find random materials that work for us. The reason that this book is called A Gift of Fire is that fire is exceedingly destructive and dangerous. It burns houses down, it kills people, it destroys thousands and thousands of acres of forestry. But how many of you would say, well, let's go back to a time when we didn't have fire? No. Fire is here to stay, agree? With all of its negatives, it's here to stay, and it's impossible to even think that we could go back and remove it. Sorry, folks, the internet is here to stay.
Yeah, but I mean, like, fire, you have warmth, it cooks your food, it heats your house, like, there are all kinds of, just like the
Well,
internet, like
with
for
the internet,
education.
with the internet, I can do my self-diagnostic medicine. With the internet, I can do my shopping without leaving my house. So all of this warmth and good, their benefits come off the internet too. And for every negative that you can find on the internet, technology created that negative, technology somehow removes it. When the internet started to have these social sites on it, like Facebook and all of the others, doomsday sayers said, oh no, it's over. People are going to be isolated, they're just going to live in their own shell with their own little computer, and very soon, nobody's even going to talk to each other. And exactly the opposite turned out to be the same. People communicate more socially. They stay more in touch with their family and their friends, and they're more social than they were before. It was said that when we had the computers, it was going to take away jobs. People were going to be out of jobs, and they were, temporarily. And then what happened is the computer and the internet created jobs that never existed before. We are now an information society. Thousands of people together put the Yahoo news feeds together that didn't have jobs before. Thousands of people run the Amazon websites that didn't have jobs before. So technology, at first it removes and then it replaces. So the idea is in this entire course that you're going to have one foot on this side and one foot on that side. And what you're going to be looking for is a balance between the good and the bad. Everything that you can say is not good and is harmful, and it comes out of technology, then if you say, well, technology can be the same tool that can remove the danger that technology created. For example, hackers take advantage of the fact that the technology is there, true? Now, the hacker catchers, what do they use to catch the hackers? Computers themselves, the technology agreed. So all of these are two-edged swords. And what we're going to do in here is always to use the technology to solve the problem that the technology created. And what we're going to do is look for balance, and we're going to look for solution. We're not going to say, well, it's a tsunami, it's overpowering, it's overwhelming, and we're all going to get swept away. No, we're going to be optimistic, and we're going to say that we can do this. We can ride the horse. The horse doesn't ride us. Yeah, we created this thing, but we're still in charge of it. and we can still call the shots as a society, and we will call the shots. We may be a little slow, and some of our answers may not be right on the first time, but we get better as we do it. And you guys are the ones that are going to be doing it. So what we want to do in here is to train you to solve problems that no one has ever solved before, because those problems never existed before. We've never had problems that we have now because of the internet. We've never had ethical problems. If we did, we would teach you how to solve them, because we've worked it out. But these are one-of-a-kind, first-kind problems that have never existed before, and they've come into being because of the internet and technology, and I can't teach you how to solve them because the problem has never existed before. All we can do is give you some tools. We can give you some weapons, some guns, some swords, and we can say, the enemy is over there, go get him. So we're going to equip you with some guidelines, with some ethical guidelines, that when you get in a position where you have to make a decision about a problem that has never existed before, and you don't know what to search for, then we're giving you some kind of foundation. Now, strangely enough, the foundations that we give you have existed for thousands and thousands of years. The primary one that we're going to give you is called the Golden Rule. Can anyone cite the Golden Rule?
Do unto others.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So if you're in an ethical situation and you just don't know how to answer it, then that's one of the things that you can consider, the Golden Rule. There's another one called the Ten Commandments. Now, I don't want to get into specific religions, but some variation of the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's husband. They all exist in some form or another in most societies. There's another one called the categorical imperative, and that is, if something is not right for everybody to do, it's not right for you to do. So please turn your music down. Okay, and the other one is, if it's not right to do this all the time, it's not right to do it once. But there are always exceptions to it too. So we can load you up with these ground level guidelines that can help you when you come to specific ethical situations. So that's basically what we're going to do this first week. We're going to give you a grounding in accepted ethical principles. And I'm going to pass out this piece of literature to you. And you're going to say, well, what about the website? Well, I'll mention about the website in a moment. Okay.
Oh, I was like,
Okay. Now, why is it called unwrapping the gift? Because we're unwrapping the gift of the internet, agreed? Sorry? I have trouble with these numbers. We're unwrapping the gift of the internet, and just like a gift at Christmas, you're a little bit puzzled. Am I going to be glad I got this? How do I make it work? What is it all about? And can I even assemble the darn thing? Okay, now, we get led into it if we turn the pages in this handout. The first thing, now this is assigned reading. Now, the way that the mechanics of this course work is as follows. On Monday, I will provide the material for the week, as I'm doing right now. And I will present it as much as it can be presented, because this is a joint effort. Just broke my pen. I broke the clip. I can't. Okay, now, as much as I can, I will present the material, modest to replace it. We will get the gist of what it is we're going to be dealing with this week, and what we're going to be dealing with is the foundations of ethics. And then I'm going to assign certain questions for you to write out the answers to.
online?
And that's right, that's the thing to do. Those books should close them all down. You're not going online.
So we're not gonna like really be in Leo, we're gonna like,
And when you bring in those written out answers on Wednesday, I'm going to ask you to read your answer to a certain question. Your classmates are going to listen, and they're going to look at their answer, and they're going to say, that's nothing like my answer. So then I'll ask another classmate to present their answer. And then we'll ask you to reconcile your differences insofar as is possible. And this will be done in a very rational, professional level. What we're after is objectivity. So we don't want to cite personal experiences. Why this is what happened to me, that's why this is wrong. Because subjectivity are isolated cases, so we can't use those. You can use things that would apply in general to an entire society, which is what we're trying to fix. We're not trying to fix ourselves, we're trying to fix the world. And so your solution should be geared to a world fix, as you say in class on Wednesday, and as others listen to you. And they will find things in it that they think you are logically wrong on. Not that they don't like them. None of us like anybody else's stuff. We just don't start with knowing that and move past it right away. We're going to find logical improvements that we can make in it, or things that the person didn't think of. So we will have rebuttals and counter rebuttals on every particular question. And we'll go over all of the questions. Then I'm going to collect your written out answers on Wednesday after we go over them. And I'm going to put all of the problem numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, in little pieces of paper, and I'm going to put them in a hat. And one lucky person will reach into the hat and draw out 2 numbers, and that'll be our test. And you'll write down your answers without notes or book to those 2 questions that were chosen. And we'll have 8 tests in here, 1 each Wednesday. Each one will be 2 questions. Questions will be from the homework, no surprises. So if you don't do your homework, you're totally unprepared for the test. And there's no way that you can pick it up during class discussion enough to get a good answer on the test. So what you want to do is do your work between Monday and Wednesday. Now I'll try to give you more than just 2 days lead time. Like this Wednesday, I'll try to introduce next week's material so you can get it started over the weekend. That's unfair. I'll tell you what the questions are going to be as much as possible. I have a challenge for you. It's never been done before, but one of you can do it. You could have another person. No one's ever failed this course. I put it out there. You be the one. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. You really have to. The reason is the course has no answers. So that means your answers aren't wrong. But you're not judged on your answers. You're judged on your presentation of your answers.
so
On the depth. Right.
conviction, no.
Conviction, leave it at the door. So this is a highly interactive, highly discussive course. And you'll get to know each other all too well. So the seating arrangement is conducive to that, and it's very specifically chosen for interaction. And we'll have that about it. So we'll take 8 tests in here, and you should have comprehensive command of the material that goes into your answer. And I'll give you my first example right now. This is going to be an add-on for Wednesday to the actual problems that I've already selected that you'll answer on paper. Who in here has not heard of the current VW fiasco? Volkswagen fiasco. Who, raise your hand if you maybe heard of the Volkswagen fiasco, or have heard of it. Okay, now raise your hand if you have not heard of the Volkswagen fiasco. Okay, I will describe, as part of my job, the Volkswagen case that emerged in the course of the last month. Now, you don't have to take notes. It's all over Yahoo, it's all over Google, it's everywhere. Evening, ma'am, how are you tonight? Good. Glad to see someplace, and please try not to distract your neighbor to catch up, and try to absorb what you can. And about 2 weeks ago, a scientist at the University of Virginia published a bit of research. What he had done is take an ordinary Volkswagen car, drive it out on the highway, and test it for the amount of emissions that the engine was producing. He recorded that the engine was producing 40 times the legal amount of emissions. 40 times the legal amount of emissions. So he took the car in to an emission station for testing. It tested at the legal limit. He took it back out on the highway. It's 40 times over the legal limit. He took it in to be, the car knew when it was being tested. And it choked off its emissions when it was being tested. When it was out on the highway, it reverted to free form and emitted 40 times the legal amount of emissions. It was software controlled. So he published his findings. He's a research scientist, and he was interviewed by journalists about his feelings about it. He said, I don't have any feelings about it. It's just a scientific result. That's what I do. I publish it. I don't have a horse in the race. It's just out there now. What happens with it is what happens with it. I'm not on one side or the other. So, of course, the government is outraged, and they took it to the Volkswagen company in Germany, and they laid it on the table. What's going on here? You've got thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands of cars out there, and they are all testing legal for emissions, this diesel engine. And when we run it on the road, it switches and emits 40 times the legal limits. What's going on? So the Volkswagen people were quiet for about a week, and then they decided on their strategy, and they said, we confess. We did it. We created software such that the engine knows when it's being tested and reduces its emissions to the legal limit, and when it's not being tested, it emits 40 times the legal limit. Yes, we did this, we knew we were doing it, and we're very sorry. Now, it's yet to be determined whether they were sorry they got caught or sorry they did it. But they said, we're very sorry, and we hope that nobody feels bad about Volkswagen because we did this. And they set aside $7 billion out of their ready cash to meet the lawsuits and fines that were immediately going to be coming. Journalists say that's a drop in the bucket. That's not going to cover anywhere near what's coming. And the question some journalists pose is whether Volkswagen can survive this crisis or not with the general public. So here I think we have an ethical situation, or an unethical situation, as you take a look at it. And there are various factors involved. First, of course, an investigation was undertaken at the Volkswagen company as to how could this have happened. And the following scenario was revealed. In around 2005, Volkswagen engineers felt that they needed a new diesel engine to compete because it's a competitive society, agree? So that first introduces the ethical question, should societies be competitive or should they be cooperative? That's one ethical question, agree? It's on the table now. So the engineers created this new engine, and they promised the manufacturing division of the company that they would have it ready in 3 years. So cars were designed and built, and they were all empty except for the engine that they were going to put in it as soon as it was finished. So they finished designing the engine and tested it. And European emission standards are more lenient than US. But As soon as they tested it, they realized that this engine could not be made to meet US emission standards. So they had a question. They could admit total failure, that they had misdesigned an engine, which they had publicized to the world as a great engine in the making promo company, promo department, sold it up big. And they could say that we failed. We don't have such an engine. Now, for a company the size of Volkswagen to admit that they failed to develop a major component like an engine, does that hurt the company? Does that hurt the workers for the company? Does that hurt the salespeople? So it's an ethical question. Do you really want to harm that many people by saying we failed to make the engine? Okay. So the decisions were made at the level of the vice presidencies. The vice presidents of the company got together, decided how they were going to address the problem. And one of the unfortunate aspects about the company is that it was run by a CEO, a president, who took no quarter, demanded productivity, demanded perfection, or you are out. He created a fear culture. If you did produce, you were gone. If you made a mistake, goodbye. It was the way he ran the company. And Volkswagen is the largest selling, the richest car company either in the world or in Europe. I think it's actually in the world. Although they say Toyota is pretty big too. So it's a #1 company, and this guy ran it in that style. So the vice presidents also had this to think about. If we tell the boss we blew it, we're chopped liver, we're gone. We're out of here. So was it ethical for a CEO to create a fear culture in his own company? Is it inhuman to dehumanize human beings, to think of them as only a means to an end and not as individuals, the way some teachers run a classroom, for example? Is he unethical to do that? So the vice presidents had to make a decision, and technology provided them with a solution. Now, they found that they could create software that could sense when the engine was being tested and reduce the emissions. And if the engine wasn't being tested, then the engine could run normal. Now, if they fixed the engine so it met the legal limits, they could not sell it because nobody's going to buy something that has that low a miles per gallon. They needed to get a high miles per gallon so they could sell the thing. And it is a case of either you sell it or some other automaker gets the sale and you don't. So they had to get the high miles per gallons in order to sell the engine, in order to sell the car. So they couldn't choke off the engine. Nobody would buy it. So what they did was they created this software that would pass the test, and then it would run at a high miles per gallon on the highway, making the owner happy. So lots of people continued to buy Volkswagens. Now, is it unethical of a purchaser to want a car that gives him high miles per gallon? Well, we have a frank answer to that right away. So that's valid. There's no controversy about that. So the next thing is that they decided that since they had technology that could do this, why not use the technology? So this is what this class is all about. Because we have a technology, is it right to use the technology? Or does it have to be decided case by case? We have technology to shred every bit of privacy that every person on this planet ever thought they could have. And is it going to be right to use that? We have technology that destroys copyright laws. And is it right to go ahead and use that? Or should we just ignore these questions and go ahead and do things and see what happens when we do them? Or is it not better to use a little bit of upfront prevention? Well, Volkswagen decided it wasn't. They're just going to fly with it. They didn't investigate the ethics of it. They just said, the technology is here, let's just do it. Now, were they in it for greed? Or were they just trying to have the Volkswagen company continue to survive? They were not thinking of themselves, they were thinking of the company. Is there not such a thing as loyalty to the company? Or were they just afraid of the boss? Or they didn't want to have to face their own kids and say we couldn't make an engine. So all of these factors were in there, but they decided to release the software to cheat. And they've admitted now that they decided to cheat. So what I want each one of you to do is to perform an ethical analysis of what I've just described. An ethical analysis. Now what I'm going to do in the next 2 hours is give you the tools that you use to form an ethical analysis. But there are some questions that you can address. For example, is the U.S. government wrong to have such high ethical emissions, to have such high emission controls? Is that unethical on the part of the government? Should we not have a free society where everyone can run their car as they care to run their car? Is it not too tight a governmental control? What happened to liberty? Is it unethical of the government to even constrain emissions? Do they have a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness right to do that? Don't we have a right to drive our car? That's an ethical question you can look at. Is the government wrong with their emission standards? And Volkswagen is right to challenge that, saying that every person has a right to emit gas. So you can take almost any position that you want. You can say the senior vice presidents were right because they were just looking out for their families. They couldn't afford to be out of a job. They were trying to have the company survive. And you can say the CEO was right because with his harsh administrative tactics, he increased the stock value of Volkswagen. So you can say he was right. Or you can say every one of these were wrong. You can say the vice presidents were wrong because they lied. And that's one of the 10 Commandments, don't lie. You can say the CEO was wrong because he created a freer climate. You can say the government, you can say the research scientist was wrong because he blew the whistle and caused this whole mess. If he just kept quiet, then everything would be fine. Now, put yourself in the position. You own a Volkswagen. You've been driving it happily for 4 years. Now this report comes out, Volkswagen admits it, says we did it, we cheated your car. What's your feeling when you go out the next morning and get in your car and drive? Maybe you don't even want to.
Depends on where
Yeah, you can look at it that way too. Does it affect you personally? In other words, were the consumers cheated because now they have this spot that they're in between a rock and a hard place, and they don't want to drive the car because they're environmentalists, and they know what their car is doing every mile they drive, and they don't want to do that. So can you smell the lawsuits coming out of the woods? And now you can even address the question if you want to, is this going to be the end of Volkswagen, or can they survive this? Is it that big? Now, what's going on with American mentality, to my observation, is that we've become fairly immune to dishonesty and corruption. Desensitized. And that's a big topic when you start to consider ethics. 50 years ago, If there was the slightest smell of corruption in a government official, there was public outrage. It was not tolerated. These guys they were sacred. Nowadays, the mayor of New Orleans was indicted 6 months ago for taking bribes. And he says, why pick on me? Everybody's doing it.
In the
Why
state of
me?
Louisiana, they absolutely are. We've had corruption for the last 25 years.
Okay, so you see, we become desensitized, and it's not just Louisiana anymore, it's mostly everywhere. And why have we become desensitized? And I feel we have become desensitized to the point of where a lot of people are going to say about Volkswagen, so what?
That's what they're hoping for.
Exactly.
No.
And that is, I think, the brilliance of their strategy. They're banking on that. People are gonna say, so what, go back and watch the ball game.
At least they
It's not a
admitted
big
it.
deal, huh?
At least they admitted it.
Yeah, but is it a strategy or an honesty?
They could come out and say, well, at least we're not as bad as BP.
They admitted and blame it on one nefarious character who was acting outside the interest of the
Yeah,
company.
they could just find a scapegoat and hang them high. That's what they could do. So this is what I want each one of you to bring out. Now, what I want each one of you to do is to prepare a 3-minute ethical analysis of the Volkswagen fiasco. And on Wednesday, I want each one of you to read your 3-minute ethical analysis. And I don't want you just to say, I don't like this, I don't like what they did. It's wrong, that's personal. This is a course in objectivity, ethics. And you've got to be able to support it as being wrong for reasons that are harmful to society, irrespective of what you like or don't like. How does this benefit or detriment society if it goes one way or the other? What's the pro and what's the con? Put yourself in the position of a judge. Take your own feelings out of it and decide what is the damage that's been done and what should an appropriate response be to this damage that's been done. And what type of dangers does it alert us to in our society? One, that it could even happen. Obviously, there is no integrity within the company, agreed?
I think that right there is
Integrity,
That's
corporate
gonna-
integrity.
that's
That's going to be you. So present it from your point of view. If you find something to focus on, that's going to make you different from your classmates. So you find something for you to focus on. But again, on a strategic level, not on a personal level. Then we want to hear that from you. So we're going to give each one of you 3 minutes on Wednesday to present your ethical analysis. Now, I don't want to hear something that I could read on Google. We can tell the difference between a Google answer and your answer. We want this to pass through your head, not to go from your eye to your hand.
Would you like that from an APA or another?
Go. Okay, now, we want this to be the result of your thinking about it. So sure enough, you can go out and you can Google the question and write down the answer. And what have you learned? What have you grown? What have you gained? Why are you taking the course? Nothing. This is your opportunity to go from A to B in your ability to do an ethical analysis. And if you take that opportunity, then you're going to be a larger person on Wednesday than you are right now. So do give it that. Now, you're going to be in a clock. So some of you are going to talk for a minute and a half and say, that's all I got, and that's all you get. 50%. So what you need to do is talk slow. And also rehearse. Rehearse before you come in, even though you're reading it, and make sure it takes 3 minutes, and not 4, because you're still in somebody's time. So if you don't take 3, you're going to get stopped. So don't take too long and too short in your presentation, because we all have people, isn't it?
Sure, just to clarify, so we're gonna read this packet and have all these questions answered for Wednesday's class.
That's right. This is the time to remind you, or actually to point out to you, that what is the number on this course? This is an upper division course. You are expected to perform at an upper division level of contribution and work. This is no longer, give me the equation and give me the numbers to plug in freshman. This is no longer sophomore. This is junior level upper division work. You're expected to be able to give individual analysis and works, and you're expected to work independently, to gather resources, and to intertwine them together into your own individualistic opinion. Now, this is the progression of education. When you get to be graduate students, then you become almost on a par with the professor, and you just sort of talk things over. You no longer get taught. You go your own direction, and you sort of get guided a little bit. And we're moving into that on a 300 level course. You do your own work, and you sort of get mentored. But you don't really get taught or told what to do step by step anymore. You're past that. So you do have to do the amount of productivity that's expected at a 300 level course, which is a lot more than a 200 level course. So yeah, this course is going to take some time. It is going to take some time. But it's not a complex course. It's not a difficult course in the way that calculus is, for example. The concepts are not that tight. You don't have to bang your head against the wall. The stuff is fairly understandable. You just have to pay your dues and absorb it. And then come out with your own analysis of it. So it's not an impossible course as far as thinking level goes. Everyone in here can understand everything in here that we talk about. So it's a matter of putting it together, and that may be taking some time on your part, but that's when the learning takes place. So that's the large part of your first assignment, and the rest of it is, I'd like to lead us through these pages a little bit. Yes, sir.
How many questions do we have?
I'll put them on the board in a moment, but
Okay.
there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 questions that I will tell you which ones they are in a moment. They're at the end of the chapter. Okay, so let's go back to turning the page. Page 23. What she is alerting you to here is that what we are enmeshed in now, the chaotic situation that we find ourselves in right now, has repeated itself dozens of times in our history. First, she mentions it with fire, agree? It's a controversy. Should we keep it? Should we not keep it? Is it good? Is it bad? It burns, it cuts, but it's useful. So what do? Who knows what is a Luddite? Luddite, a Luddite. Well, these were a group of people who made cloth, who made rugs by hand. And then somebody invented something called a loom, which made cloth by machine. And it threatened to put these people out of work. So they hit the streets and revolted. And they did not want to change. They wanted to keep doing things the way they'd always done them. So can you put your finger in the dike? Can you stop the tsunami? Is it possible to say no to technology? That's one of the ground level questions we have to decide in here. Is it possible even to say no to technology the way that China seems to be trying to say? How many say, yes, we should at least consider the question, can we stop technology? How many say, no, we can't stop technology? Okay, then you have to ride the wave, read like a surfer. You have to learn how to ride the wave. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Toothpaste does not go back in the tube. It's out, it's going to happen. And what you have to do is to channel it, to guide it along, minimize the damages, minimize the dangers, and optimize the benefits and rewards. And she points out that this has happened every time we have had a technological step up. So let's look over the last 200, 300, 400 years. And I will recall the items that you mentioned. Looking at the last 200, 300, 400 years, what do you think was the most significant technological invention? Typewriter.
Space exploration.
Space exploration. Microchip. Think back. Go back 100, 200 years. Look at what you saw.
Automobile?
Automobile, but not just the automobile. And why was no one
Printing
thinking
press.
the internal combustion engine that runs
Oh, the
C-130?
assembly line?
Hmm?
Turn
The
on
assembly line, the internal combustion engine, the telegraph, the telephone, the radio, the electricity, that too. Compared to the internet, would you say that the technological step up from the internet is comparable to electricity?
No.
Which is greater?
The internet.
Electricity had to come first.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know first, but which made the greater change impact on society?
Internet.
Internet has?
I think it's still electricity.
Well, having experienced them both, I go for electricity. I really do, because it created things that were absolutely mind-boggling and impossible before that. You have a box in the room that talks,
Television.
television, all of that coming from electricity, lights even. You don't go to bed with the sun anymore. All of these things, fans, air conditioning, that too. So I would vote for electricity. How many would say you would even at least consider electricity on the equivalent with the internet? How about any others?
Printing press, because it was the beginning of exchange of mass information.
The printing press, even more than the typewriter, revolutionized the whole world. Okay, space exploration, we have no idea what it's going to do. It's too soon to say. But it's certainly going to be fantastic. So, we have seen this before, and we handled it each time. There were riots, there was chaos, there were people objecting to it, there were dangers, and we found solutions. So the thing to do right now with this problems created by the internet, privacy, copyright, all of these things is to not panic, but just have faith. We will find solutions. And we will find solutions. They'll come a little bit later than we would have liked them to have come. And in fact, technology that created the problem also creates the tools by which you can solve the problem. Fight fire with fire. You can fight technology with technology. So that's out there too. So the thing that we want to do is to reach for balance and to say, yes, that is true. And yes, this is also true. And what we're going to do is to find some solution that embodies the best of both sides. And we're going to enact that solution. And we're perfectly capable of doing that, of arriving at rational solutions. And that's going to be your job. Because as you guys go out there, as you already have found out, because of technology and the internet, you're going to find an ethical problem on your desk that could not have existed 10 years ago. And you're going to look up in the books at the library for precedents, how to solve that, and it will come back empty. It's never been approached before, the problem never existed before. You're going to be the first person in the existence of the universe to solve that problem. So you're going to have some kind of equipment and some kind of foundation to go out there and solve that problem with. So that's what we're going to try to load you up with here. Not going to give you answers because we don't even know what the problems are yet. So we can't give you answers to it. But we can try to muscle you up a little bit so that you can have a good chance at handling it, or maybe at least not messing it up too much. Now, I'd like to talk about one of the closing topics in today, a little bit out of order, is what about law? What about law? Well, you say, well, it's really easy to solve these ethical problems, just follow the law. Well, the laws aren't out there yet. This stuff is too new. We don't have laws against this because even the congressmen don't know about it yet.
Well, in the case of, the VW, don't they have emission laws? The EPA laws, the Clean Air and Water Act?
In that case, clear laws have been violated. There are other laws, such as, for example, in California, it is illegal to do such and such on your website. I want to call a specific example, say to publish a certain type of photo on your website. It's against the laws of California. So you tried it, and you got taken to court for it because you broke the law. Okay, so now you're a little smarter. You go to Tennessee, where it's not against the law, and you start up your website in Tennessee. It's still splashed all over California, but now you're legal. Now, is that something that needs a law to fix it?
It depends on what it is.
Well, all right, well, let's say at least California has found it objectionable. So now, in other words, does this have to be solved by a law at the national level?
Again, it depends on what it is. Just like
Maybe
every.
a state's right? Well, no, we have now the capability of you broadcasting something in the state that crosses state boundaries.
Right.
So is it any longer a state issue?
No.
Okay. But there are no laws, because everything else before stayed within the state boundaries, so state laws were sufficient. So now we have a situation created by technology where these laws at a national level have never been considered before. And there are huge considerations that have to be taken in when you create a law at a national level, because it might be fine with people in Maine, but really counter-objectionable to people in Alabama, for example. So you have all kinds of local viewpoints that have to be incorporated into national law. Those take time, they have to be ironed out by lawmakers, so law is always late.
I think it doesn't have to do with the, I guess, objectivity of the person that makes the law. Like child pornography, everyone can, say that's wrong. And it is wrong in the state, but saying maybe certain religious views, in one state, it's the predominant of that state, so no one has any issues. But in another state, it's strictly outlawed. So if you have that website in that state, wouldn't it have to be a law against the people that should be in the state that it's illegal accessing it, as opposed to like, you know what I mean? Like, because.
Would you like to be the ones who try to enforce them?
No, that's why I'm not law enforcement.
It's not enforceable. You can't make a law you can't enforce. And you can't not make a law that says that websites will have state boundaries they cannot cross. That's not going to happen. So you see, you can't go there. Now, and unfortunately, politicians do not make laws objectively. They balance subjectivities. That's how they stay in office. If they make objective laws, they're always voted out. They have to play the political game. And that's perhaps another weakness of democracy. Go there. But the laws are always late. And they're always unsatisfactory, at least to some people. So you can't say all you have to do is follow the law. In most cases, the law doesn't exist yet. The problem is solved by law after the problem exists, but it's often on your desk ahead of Congress. And you're going to have to make your personal decisions even before it is a matter of law one way or the other. Sure, there are going to be laws now about this VW fiasco. That's going to be quite sure.